Good afternoon, everyone. We've just hit 1 p.m, so we're going to start today's briefing while there's just a few more people logging on. My name is Alfred, and I'm part of the Novatti Investor Relations team, and I'll be hosting today's call with Novatti CEO Peter Cook. Peter joins us to provide a brief presentation on the December quarter results, and then he'll open the floor to questions from investors and analysts. Throughout the presentation, if you do have any questions, please just type them into your Q&A box. If you're on a computer, that Q&A button's on your left, and if you're on a smart device, it's down the bottom. At the end of the presentation, we'll go through all the questions with Peter. As many of you may be aware, Novatti released their December quarter results this morning, which was another record of sales revenue. So I won't take up any more of Peter's time. Peter, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Alfred, and good afternoon all, and well, good morning to any coming in from the West or Europe, where we might have a couple. Really good to be able to give this presentation today, and it is strong on financial results, which I'll be able to go through, and really positions us well for going forward. So just a general disclaimer for this presentation, and then getting straight into it. What do we do as a business? We enable other businesses to pay and be paid. We are a company that essentially supports other financial services companies, whether they be banks or startup fintechs, and we support traditional merchants and businesses to do payments, business-to-business payments. That's why we've built our ecosystem. It's what our strategy is about, and it really goes to the heart of how we talk about ourselves. In terms of our lines of business, we are an issuer, so we can issue cards. We are an acquirer. We can take payments from merchants through all sorts of payment methods, whether they be Visa, MasterCard, China Union Pay, Alipay, WeChat Pay, etc. We do a lot of processing, cross-border payments, settlements, reconciliation type payments, both within Australia and globally. We are very strong in subscription billing, and we provide all sorts of billing and automation services to our clients. And underway, we are hopefully pregnant with getting a bank license in Australia, on top of a whole lot of other licenses that we both have and are applying for. But we'll have that digital banking element to our business in the near term. So going back to it, we're all about building an ecosystem where we have licenses, we have technology, we have partnerships, and leveraging that ecosystem or infrastructure, you might think about it as, we enable these B2B payments from other financial services institutions or traditional businesses. Looking at our results from the last quarter, really strong, very much in line with how we've been planning our business. In terms of sales revenue, which is the main thing we measure ourselves on, $5.8 million, up 53% year on year, and we are yet to bring in any revenues in that figure from the acquisition of ATX. Those revenues will come in from about mid-January. Strong cash balance, nearly $13 million at the end of the quarter, and this does not include any of the committed funds for the bank. So that's essentially Novatti's funds available for driving the Novatti business. Within that $5.8 million of sales revenue, what is really, really important is that the vast bulk of it now is from what we call payment processing. So $4.9 million out of $5.8 million. So the vast bulk of it is the business we've been building over the last few years. In fact, in the last 12 months, we've roughly gone from a bit over 2 million to 4.9 million. So really, really strong in that sort of transactional processing, 122% year on year. And I think in the long term, this is going to be the measure that we really get looked at on. So our overall revenue is growing at 53%, but within it, the core financial transaction component growing at over 100% year on year. And on our processing business, a nice thing for me to be able to say 11 quarters of continuing record numbers. And, looking forward, we would absolutely hope that keeps going like that. So, what have we been doing, and, how do I sort of summarize this if I was presenting to my board of directors or, you as shareholders? We are very focused on delivering on the strategy we articulated early in the financial year. And so within this quarter, we've really been able to hit some of those aspirations and stated aims. So new and expanded markets. We've been able to show the market that we could bring through the Visa and Mastercard acquiring licenses, as we had said. We brought through funding commitments for the bank. We are driving new markets, for instance, with Ripple, but also with other new service such as Verve. So we are continuing to expand our markets, whether it be in licenses, in geography, or in services. In terms of acquisitions, we announced the acquisition of ATX. Really great addition to what we're doing. We have other acquisitions we are reviewing. ATX really, the acquisition of it really goes back to new and expanded markets, where it gives us that really strong footprint in Southeast Asia. They have a large business in Malaysia, and between us and the founders of ATX, we can drive a lot more growth of services in Malaysia, and also use that as a launching pad into other countries in Southeast Asia. Reckon, with 19.9% shareholder, we have great communications with the Reckon management team. We're really happy with what they're doing, and just, notwithstanding anything else, we're also on the receiving end of a strong dividend flow from them. And last quarter, we received $676,000 of dividend from that investment. And looking forward, we're really starting to see that the results of our past investments and work paying dividends. Not a literal dividend, but, really giving us growth. So, simple thing, we've been able to now execute on global operations as a payments company. We have extensive teams in Australasia. We've now got a solid footprint in Asia through the ATX team. We have a significant number of staff now in Europe, and we've also deployed our immersion team in the US. So we actually have a strong operating footprint in the US. So really, today we have operating teams in Australasia, Asia, Europe, and North America, and we can now really start to leverage not just our licenses and our services, but we can actually leverage these teams to continue to drive growth and build value for the overall business, where we will be seen as a global payments company. We've been able to really strongly grow the top line revenue. That's been the measure that we've set, and we've articulated to the market that we want to be able to bring through very strong revenue growth whilst being sustainable. We have a balance sheet that is very strong, that allows us to keep driving at this growth level. And we continue to look to expand into new markets, build that ecosystem, accelerate our business development with new customers, in particular for the acquiring business, but also for our cross-border payments business, settlements, reconciliation, and subscription billing. And very much we're seeking to finalise our restricted bank license in Australia, and that we see as a near-term activity, albeit in the hands of a regulator, of the regulator APRA, and the final timing is not with us. Acquisitions, we keep looking at acquisitions. We see that we've got our own strong organic growth, but we can further accelerate that and drive value for our current shareholders by very clever acquisitions, which we hope to bring through over the following periods. And of course, our strategic investment in Reckon, we continue to work closely with Reckon, and we see great opportunity between our businesses. So in summary, we think we've delivered strongly in the last quarter. In fact, even for the last half year, if you look at it, our total sales revenue is over 11 million, an absolute record, and we'll have the full half year results at the end of February. But quarter after quarter, we continue to show the market growth. This quarter coming, we'll have the ATX numbers in our revenues for about 2.5 months. We should have our own continuing growth, so really strong numbers looking forward. We have a strong balance sheet, cash on hand of about $12.9 million outside of any funding for the bank, plus, of course, the strength in our balance sheet from the holding in Reckon. And we have a board and a management team that are very focused on continuing to deliver this strong growth. So very positive last quarter and very positive looking forward. Alfred, happy to take questions as we go now. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Great result. We've already had quite a few questions come in. If anyone does have any more, just pop them in your Q&A box, and we'll be able to get through them over the next 15 minutes or so. Peter, I'm going to merge a couple of questions together. There's a few investors asking about the acquiring business. So Hector, Daryl, and Kai, can you please give us an update on the acquiring licenses and what type of companies Novatti has onboarded?
Yeah. So two things. The acquiring business was already operating before we got the acquiring licenses. We were essentially operating as what's called a payment facilitator or merchant aggregator. The acquiring licenses allow us to become an acquirer within, it's let's say a technical term within the business structure, and it allows us to get deeper margins within the industry and also to bring on merchant aggregators potentially onto our acquiring business. So in terms of actual revenues, we are starting to get very, very strong growth out of the acquiring business. We've brought on some really good clients. For instance, we've integrated out to some accommodation venues, to some SaaS clients, to some merchants who are selling online various goods and services. And we are now starting to pump through some millions of dollars per month of transaction value. So that business is going really well. We've got a very good and experienced sales team, and we are integrating more services and growing that business. The acquiring licenses, we are now deploying our acquiring switching capability, and then over the next few months that'll go live into production, and that will allow us to drive deeper margins in the acquiring business.
Peter, how is immersion going with the expansion into the US, and will we see a potential payments gateway into the US as well?
Yes, so there seems to be two questions there. So immersion, we've got on board our first customers in the US. We're sort of transacting for them right now, and we are, just really enthused about the outlook there. In terms of doing payments in the US, that will be, it's nearly a second strategy and bite of the cherry, where we will initially outsource the payment processing to an acquirer in the US. We get some referral fees, but you can imagine that longer term we'll certainly aim to become our own acquirer there, or have an acquiring business to get a deeper share of the margins.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Nathan. Can we please get an update on the crypto gateway and timeline to making this available as a commercial offering?
Yes, so there's a few parts to that. So we lodged a patent application about a year ago, and we're just sort of further progressing that now. We have done a lot of work building a first product into market, you might say, and then we're in the process of now essentially negotiating with some customers to bring them on to be able to provide payment services there. So, it is a crypto at one headline, you'd say it's a crypto payment gateway. Really what it is, in terms of our strategy, it allows us to have another method of payment, somewhat unique, and to drive additional payment transactions for our merchant customers and some of the crypto exchanges that come on board.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Kai. With the takeover of Afterpay from Block, have you had any further expansion discussions with the new owners?
So Kai, certainly not, I'll say, directly with the new owners, but we work with their management team. I think Afterpay would be very happy, I suspect, with their results out of New Zealand, and certainly we've had a great business relationship and operating performance with them, and I would hope that in particular, if they look into further countries in Southeast Asia, our increasing footprint there would make us a really good option for them to work with for, say, that expansion.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Simon. With regards to payment processing, which is the bulk of Novatti revenue, is guidance near 100% year on year?
Sorry, what is just the last part of that, Alfred?
Is your internal expectation near 100% year on year?
So Simon, we're actually getting growth across a number of parts of the business. So, if you look at, and we're very deliberately a multi-services payment service provider, and I sort of use that language because at one level we're a payments company, but within it there are different lines of business. Increasingly, our customers are taking more than one line of business. The growth at the moment is across a couple of areas. It's part of it's our old FlexiPin product, cross-border payments, some reconciliations we do. We're getting strong growth in acquiring and in fact the China payments business. And so, I guess looking forward, we intend to bring growth through from as many of those pillars as possible. We're not forecasting as a company, but hopefully we can, people can look at the graphs and see that we've been very consistent in our growth, and investors can model that forward.
Thanks, Peter. Got a question here from Julie about the cash flow. Can you give us some color on how you see your cash playing out over the next 12 months and how you intend to fund acquisitions going forward, given you'll need current cash balance to support the business growth trajectory?
Julie, so in terms of funding at the moment, we are very much focused as a long-term aim to getting to cash positive, and so that is an absolute aim of the board. In terms of our current cash position and balance sheet, we are confident of our funding going forward. Acquisitions, when it's all said and done, depending on how an acquisition is done, whether it's cash or scrip or whatever, may go outside of our current cash, but at the moment we think we're funded.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Matt. Is there a potential for a Venmo partnership to enable its services to be available in Australia? Currently only operating in the US. Is this something Novatti could pursue?
We could. I mean, I do know Venmo, and they have been very US centric in the past. I'll put that down as an activity for one of our executives to contact them, and that's a good idea. But right now, it's not a work in progress.
Thanks, Peter. Just as an extension of that, Richie is asking, you've mentioned Southeast Asia, but are you seeing progress in any other regions?
We are. So, and I've tried to sort of say today that we've been quite deliberate about building up some global operations. So we've got, for instance, a compliance and business development team in Europe. We've now got technology compliance and sales team in Malaysia as an example. Excuse me. We've got a sales and engineering team or an engineering support team for immersion in the US. So we're very much trying to build up capability in some of these other regions. We're also doing through a partner a lot of processing into South America, and at the moment, sort of the Middle East and Africa. Whilst we're doing work in there, we don't have a team there, but we sort of do look at this because we think that, I guess, a very, very long-term value point for the company is that we are seen as a global payments company, and we're building towards that, and it'll take a couple of years, but at some point people say, hey, Novatti is global, both in licenses and revenues and operational capability.
Got another question from Kai. Can you comment on the progress Verve is making and how the customer base is growing?
Yeah, Kai, that's 3 questions for you. You're winning. The Verve is it is at a very early stage, I would say. We are signing on customers, but we are right at the start of, I'll say, that as a revenue stream. So it is it is statistically meaningless within the revenues we've just shown, but hopefully will become meaningful over the next half year and full year and ongoing.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Simon. If the Ready banking license is granted, how long before Novatti will be lending to customers?
Right, Simon. So the few points here. To have a bank license, essentially you must be a lender in Australia now. And we really need to be able to show the regulator that within, say, 6 months, we can provide a lending product. And we're absolutely focused on that. So the bank itself will be a lender, and whether its first products are a home loan or say a lifestyle loan like a personal loan or something else, I don't know at this point. I mean, that will be for the bank team to work out. But you can absolutely say that from within 6 months of us having the license, we will have launched a lending product. We being the bank, we not being Novatti per se.
Peter, how has Novatti cut operating costs despite increase of your workforce?
So I'm not sure if I'm quite answering the question I was asked, but Alfred, as we now start to get significant top-line revenue growth and greater gross profit within the business, we should start to get leverage out of the existing cost base. So that the cost base has some growth to go in terms of hiring more people, but that is limited. We've really done a lot of work in growing the platform and capability of the business. So as we start to drive more revenues, we should start to see a reduction in cash consumption. So, and maybe to put some bit of colour on that, one, we've been hiring people, management and staff in Australia and Europe as an example. And so we're increasing and improving our capability. But the other thing is we've been investing in platforms, I'll say, to absolutely allow us to run a proper global business. So, for instance, we've just implemented a global ERP or accounting system called NetSuite. It's about a $400,000 commitment over 3 years. And, that's been about a year for us to implement that and get that running. We've just implemented a global human resource information system. We've got a global CRM, customer relationship management system for the business. We use Salesforce extensively. Also globally, we use Atlassian Jira. So a lot of what we're doing is about building, I'll call it those operating platforms to be able to scale the business. Now, a lot of, I'll say a fair bit of money we've spent in the past has been about preparing for some of this scaling up.
Thanks, Peter. We are starting to run out of time, so we'll probably only have time for a few more questions. If anyone does have any, please enter them now. And if we can't answer them, we'll take them offline. Got one on the emails from Tony. Peter, you note 13 million in cash, but doesn't include 10.5 million funding for the bank. So is it really 2.5 million?
Oh, okay. No. No, we have 12.94 million or whatever it was at 31 December. That 10.5 million is essentially completely separate.
Fantastic.
So it's not a part of it.
Thanks, Peter. Interesting question here from Nathan. How would you respond to investors that say Novatti is chasing too many sectors rather than just focusing on your core strength?
Well, so we would respond by going back to the core strategy. You know, we are a multi-services payment service provider. We have built an ecosystem and infrastructure, and we can service multiple client types. Now, at one level, we've got sales teams that tend to sell into different verticals, you know, that diagram with the pillars. But at the other level, we're getting significant cross-selling, but we're also getting leveraging of the same licenses and some of the same tech. So we would say that, yes, we're doing a lot, and it does look as though we're doing multiple things. However, it's essentially all with a common purpose of providing payment services in a B2B sense to other businesses, whether they be financial services companies or end merchants. So it looks as though there are multiple products and multiple services, and some of them do operate somewhat discreetly, but actually as a business, we're managing those different things pretty well, concurrently.
Thanks, Peter. Just time for one last question, and then we'll respond to all the others offline. Question from Roger. Peter, do you have any comment on the current share price?
Roger, it would be great if the share price was higher. It personally impacts me and sort of lots of my friends and people I deal with. I think right at the moment, you know, practically the tech sector globally has had a sell-off. We just can't control parts of we can't control the share price. I think the market's waiting to, see the bank license and some other things come through. What I can control, as much as possible, is the strategy for the business and the execution. And hopefully everyone sees today that we are absolutely doing what we said we would do.
Thanks, Peter. I'm just going to fit one more in just because we've got till 1:30. Question from Craig. Where are we at with Reckon? Do we have a way forward to access their customers?
Craig, so hopefully yes. So we're doing, we've got a lot of interaction between our management teams. We really respect their business. I think, as I said before, that they really know what they're doing and have a great understanding of the market and their customers. And hopefully we can bring through some services that really enable Reckon to drive more value from its customers.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Peter. I know you've got a very busy day getting around to all your other meetings. So on behalf of all the shareholders and those in attendance, I'd like to thank you for your time today, Peter, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thank you all. Thank you.